As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 9 of Zero to Hero. We are here live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I have my guest today, Chris Simon. Chris and I have gotten to know each other. We're acquainted through LinkedIn, but I would like him to actually introduce himself today. So, Chris.
Oh, thanks. Hi, everybody. My name's Chris Simon. What am I? I am someone who loves and cares about people. And my life really tries to support that in every way. I'm an executive coach. I'm a consultant. I'm a therapist. I'm a professor, stay-at-home dad a few days a week. Everything I do really revolves around loving people well. So that's who I am.
Well, that's awesome. That's pretty much the next question that I was going to ask. You've kind of already hit on some of that, but that is who you are. So that's awesome. So in a couple sentences, I'm going to go a little deeper with this. We're going to go a little deeper here, Chris. Give me an elevator pitch about you. So you kind of described yourself, but I want to know like deeper, maybe hobbies. Tell us, your favorite colors. Just kind of go a little deeper. Your favorite food.
Yeah. So who am I? So first and foremost, I am a big family man. I love my family. That's so important to me. As I said, my heart is just for people. I love helping people become the best versions of themselves, grow. I have the blessing and curse of being able to see that potential kind of everywhere. And so really trying to elevate it. When that manifests itself in my hobbies, I'm a woodworker by trade. I showed Janet my floor in my office is actually covered by pieces that are currently being finished in here. And so it really does infiltrate all that I do, from my professionals to my hobbies to times with my family. I just love spending time with people, seeing the best in them, and hopefully encouraging them to shine and how they were made to be.
I love that, Chris. And that's definitely something that I've experienced from you and know very well, is that you exemplify that on LinkedIn through your content, but also off of LinkedIn. And that's one of the reasons why I knew that you would be a good choice for this show today, is just because it's two of us who, there's no fake eyelashes. There's no, we don't have tattooed eyebrows. We're here and I'm not saying that that's not genuine, but I'm just saying we are here being real and raw. And that's something that we both love. And before I ask this next question, you and I kind of got acquainted through Bottoms Up Perspective, the tribe, the BUP tribe, which is one of the most active groups that I know of on LinkedIn and one of my personal favorites. And we love having you a part of that. And I have watched you grow a lot on LinkedIn over this past year and just expand yourself, expand your reach, your network, and really get your awesome message that you've shared with us, really get that out there to people. And so, having said all of that and built you up, please tell us about your social media journey, because we know that everybody does start at zero in life and zero on social media or in business. So tell us how that all got started and how you got to where you're at today.
Oh, what a loaded question. Yeah. My social media journey, a decade ago, 15 years ago when Facebook started, it started out there and using Facebook for a while. And then there was actually about a 10-year period I wasn't really on any social media until about 6 or 8 months ago, other than occasional here and there. And as an entrepreneur, and business owner, I often didn't use social media because it took away time that needed to go elsewhere, that needed to go to my business, to my family, to my hobbies. And at the start of the year, I began to shift that a little bit before COVID hit, to where a lot of my work as a consultant and coach is business development and sales, as many are, and trying to establish my network, build more people. I was the person, I've been here in Northwest Arkansas for 3 years. I've had lunch with over 200 executives in the area just because I want to get to know people.
Right.
And taking that online is what LinkedIn was really about. And then when COVID hit and everything shut down, it just kind of amplified the opportunity, where just because I can't go out and have coffee with people and meet new people, I can do that virtually. And that's when LinkedIn really became that. I mean, back in March, I probably had 500 connections there. And now, thanks to your help, bottoms up, and a lot of other people, closer to 4,000. And a lot of it is, I just want to use what knowledge and experience I have to make other people's lives better. I've been blessed that I have a career as an executive coach and as a therapist where I don't have to work 40 hours a week, where I can do a hodgepodge mix to get everything together. And so my philosophy, and it comes mostly from my faith perspective, is if I can help other people out for free, great, let's help. My bills are being paid. I've got enough paying clients that if I can put encouraging posts, uplifting content, leadership content that most people will never hear unless they're in an MBA program or have an executive coach, if I can share that with a 22-year-old via LinkedIn to help them engage in their leadership journey, wonderful. That's what social media has become for me, is it's been an outlet to influence as many people as possible, whether that's one person or 1,000. I don't really care. And let's be honest, we all get caught up in metrics and numbers at some point. But I've had days like that where I'm like, oh my goodness, nobody's liking this. But then there's other days where I see one comment or one private message someone says to me, or a friend of mine here local in Arkansas sent me a text message and say, I look forward to your stuff every week. This is so helpful. Thank you. And she's like, yeah, this is why I'm doing it. I'm trying to change people's lives a little bit at a time. It is really what it's about. And just as equally, it's about helping me understand my own pieces, my own leadership journey. So I'm an executive coach working with executives and business leaders. A lot of them don't have it figured out. I don't have it figured out. I try my best to not give people exercises or ideas I haven't done myself. And so a lot of this stuff I've even posted on leadership, it's about leadership failures. It's about mistakes I've made, because I think for myself, I relate to that more with people when I struggle with perfectionism or with my son coming in meetings and this kind of stuff. And so social media has just been an opportunity for me to shed light or open a window into my life to say, hey, you don't have to have it all figured out. We're all on this journey of life together, and we're just trying to do the best we can.
I love that. I love that. Wow, such a great answer, and definitely gets me to gets me to thinking thinking too much. Sorry about that.
I'm doing my job well.
Well, no, I when you were talking, I thought about, okay, here's what I really want to elaborate on. And then all of a sudden when you're done talking, I'm like, that's so good. And I totally forgot what I was going to elaborate on. So, but yes, I do. I do see, like, when those people write you, and, I've had occasional, it's just maybe one or two, but it means so much when they say, I really love your content. Or like you said, I look forward to it every week. And I think that something that has definitely affected all of us, and I'm really glad that you hit on it, is COVID changed the game. COVID changed the game, because business is all about getting out and meeting with people and showing your face, showing up, building those relationships. And then for everything to have to transition to online, I love what you did with it, because you were able to make that transition of, okay, I don't normally use social media, I'm just going to be honest. But when this happened, I knew I have to make a change. I can't just run down to the local coffee shop right now, because I really care about myself and my family and other people. And so how can I use social media in order to still be meeting people, still getting that message out there, and still making an impact or a difference on the world? And I can definitely say from personal experience that you are doing that. And I love that about you. I love that about you. And I love hearing that people are reaching out to you, because I've had that experience, and it feels so amazing. It's like, okay, it's now worth it even more than I thought. I was starting to get tired of posting, but yeah, people are looking forward to this. I'm going to keep putting it out there. And if I can make a difference to just one, I'm happy. Go ahead.
And one thing that you and I've even talked about is partially the evolution of my social media journey of trying to do these long form posts of 1,200 text or characters on LinkedIn and doing videos so many times a week, and realizing that part of my journey of social media is recognizing what is comfortable and natural for me. To these
Yes.
big posts, to do frequent videos and all that,
Yes.
induces more anxiety and stress that isn't worth it.
Exactly.
And so part of it has been like, what's natural for me? And so if anybody's been following me for a while, like yourself, you've probably seen there's a lot more of these 2 or 3 liners that I put out there of just an idea that struck me that I throw out there. And that's more natural. That's my engagements with my friends, with my colleagues, and my clients. And so find out what's natural for me. I'd love to post a video every week. I don't have time. I don't. When often the ones that I film are after I have a meeting with someone like yourself or a client, and I sit in my car and say, hey, I just had this great conversation. I want to share it with you guys. And it's just that. And then all the background work of putting subtitles on it and all that fun jazz. But it's finding what's natural for me. And it's these ideas that most of my thoughts come from my own time of journaling, my own time of reading, or my own time with my clients. And so I don't have to sit here and think, okay, what's a great idea? It's, okay, yeah, this struck me today. Maybe it'll strike someone else. Hey, this was super helpful for my client today. Let's throw it out there. You don't have to have an executive coach to be able to have these type of conversations. And so that's what's become natural for me and what's become maintainable, because the pace in which I was going on early on was drudgery. It really began to suck the life out of me. I'm like, no, this is not what it's meant to be about. It's meant to be about help people, and in a way that's comfortable, that's natural, and that also gives me life and energy.
Yes, absolutely. I know a lot of us look at the algorithm and we say, hey, how can we beat this thing? How can we wrap a rope around its neck and let us pull it, let it pull us along? And that's all well and good. And I think sometimes we need that, but it really does come down to, how can I be myself? Because people like me for me, people like you for you, and not feel, and I think that a lot of people need to hear this. I can't be Chris Simon. You can't be me. If I tell you to do something like I do it, it may not work the same for you, because you cannot duplicate me. You are you. I can't be my husband, Kevin. He does amazing with videos, me, not so much. So, it just depends on the person. It depends on the personality. And, like, just putting yourself out there in general and being who you are is already so important. It already can make a difference. What if you only have 100 followers? You don't know, you could keep one person, you can encourage one person through a situation that you have no idea that you don't even know they exist. You don't even know what they're going through, but you've touched one life and impacted them. And I mean, that's honestly what this is all about. And I know that this is what you're about.
Right. And it's about being your authentic self. And one of my favorite things to think about in business is, if you look at how business and most of life work, it's a person creating a product or a service to provide to a person. 2/3 of that equation are people. And yet sometimes we can put so much emphasis on the product, on the service of making it perfect, we forget people are making it and people are receiving it. And so how can we emphasize that part? And that's really where my executive coaching comes into play. But it's also trying to model what I teach, and this idea of, how can I be that genuine person? How can I be that honest person?
Right.
And for me as an executive coach, LinkedIn has been wonderful, because people wonder what a session is with me. Great. Look at my 3-minute video and think about how I'm talking. You can understand my syntax, my diction, and the questions I pose, and hopefully some of the humility that comes with it, and also using my own mistakes as examples. Right. Yeah. And it can give a real lens into something that for a long time has been very private and hush hush. And so let's break that mold. And I think that goes very well for my business, but I think that goes for a lot of people. Is even when we go to coffee shops or conferences and network, we try to be what people think they want us to be, that perfect put together person.
Mhm.
But as I learned early on in my career as an addiction therapist, when I was doing a lot of presentations, people don't relate to a put together expert who has all the answers.
Yes,
We
exactly.
relate to the person who has mistakes, who part of their life is falling apart, but they're still chugging through it, who
Mhm.
has had difficulty and have succeeded through it. And so I think that's really what I'm trying to be, is that authentic, real self, to tell people, like, yes, sometimes I'm sitting with executives of large companies and we're talking about their business. And the next moment I'm talking about how insecure I was during that entire meeting, or
Mm.
walking out of and be like, they deserve their money back. And to be like, we've
Mm.
all felt this way before. And so rather
Mm.
than try to fake it, let's just normalize and say, we're all in this experience of human life together. And so let's not try to be
Exactly.
perfect. Let's just try to be authentic and real and say, this is my
Mhm.
experience. I hope it speaks to you. And also, yeah, I'm just being me. So if anybody calls me out on it, I'm like, yep, I already know all my own mistakes. I'm trying to put them out there. So I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to worry
Yes.
about. And then that place, then social media actually becomes a very safe place, rather than a place I need to hide part of
Mhm.
myself. It's nope, here it is. Here's me. Oh, you don't like that? I agree. I don't like it either.
Exactly. I think you're kind of getting over into that, what I would call building a perception. And I know that, I know that sometimes I struggle with that too, of, well, I want to put my best face forward, and I know a lot of people struggle with, well, I want to give them what they perceive me to be. I want to create those appearances. I want to create this content that makes me look super intelligent, or super knowledgeable. But you can actually spend so much time building a perception that you're not actually, you know, um, being able to get content out there, or being able to, to put something that's really helping people. It might sound good, but is it making a difference in someone's life? Are you just I hope that makes sense, but I don't know why the term perception and trying to build that, and put that out there. I think that does really take away from genuineness when we try to do that. It can cause burnout and it wastes a lot of time. So that was
I
my thought when you were.
agree. And I think that we hear two different perspectives on how to leverage social media for a business, but also from a personal side. Is there's
Mm,
one, and there's some people I very admire, like Kylie Francis talks a lot about um, writing content your ideal client desires, not what you want.
mhm,
And I think there's some validity
mhm,
to that. If I'm an executive coach and I'm just writing about stuff that is interesting to me all day long and has nothing to do with leadership,
mhm.
that's not going to be very helpful for my client. And then there's
Right,
other
right.
people who say you need to be very true and authentic to yourself, and you can do that to a place where you hurt your image, where you can
Mm,
become overly self-critical and
mm,
kind of demoralize yourself, which I
mm,
don't think is healthy either from a business standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. And so for me, I'm trying to find this blending of the middle that I'm still figuring out, of writing content that I believe is beneficial for my friends and my connections who are mostly business leaders,
mm.
but also that is applicable and honest to myself. And there are
Right.
times when you find that sweet spot, and there's other times you don't. Like, one of the things I love doing is on every Friday, I do a Friday reflection.
Mhm,
I post a question that gets people to think about their week, to try to analyze it, and think about, hey, how can you take a learning from this and make next week better? And oh, as I thought about it, I don't have a really large engagement from a lot of executives on those type of posts.
hmm,
And so part of me is like, oh, I should stop this. Other part of me is like, no, this is a practice I do every Friday. I ask myself to this week's was what, looking back on the week, what was missing for me to be my best self.
mhm.
And like, whether executives believe that's important or not, I don't think it's important. It's important to me, and it's changed my life. And so I want to share
Yes.
that with people, if it's them, if it resonates with them or not, or maybe it resonates with two people who are 22 just starting out their career.
Right.
Wonderful. And so it's trying to find this blending between, yes, we need to write to your target audience and the people you're trying to get business from, but
Right.
also I don't want to do that while sacrificing myself and being, as you said, that perception of being someone I'm not.
Yeah, and I think that you're right in that, there's a good mixture. There definitely should be a balance, because we do still have to put out information that that does speak to what we do and who we are, even as a business, especially on LinkedIn. Like Facebook, may be a little different if it's your personal page or if it's your business page. There's going to be some difference there, but also I think, like you said, having, maybe those executives should be doing a look back over the week. Maybe they should be encouraged to do that. And also, hey, I want to work with Chris because I see that he is this type of person. And even if I don't like it, I saw it and I respect that about him. And those are the type of people that you want to draw anyway. You want to work with people who reflect who you are because they want to be like that. And so I love that you didn't let that stop you. You're like, here's some good content. I know you need some reads. I know you need some challenges, but also here's who I am. And here's what I'm thinking about today. So really good stuff. So I'm going to ask you this next question here. Kevin jumped on here. And I forgot to, I just see this comment from Kathy G. Kathy, thank you so much for being on the show, following us here today on Zero to Hero. She said, welcome to social media, Chris. So there's your official welcome. Kevin said, what we were talking about is so true. It should never be stressful. So thinking about what to post or what to write or what to share should never be a stressful experience, whether it's an everyday thought, or literally posting about, something that has to do with your business in your industry. So
if I may jump in real quick, it's
Absolutely.
interesting. I have a metric page where I keep track of every single post I've done on LinkedIn with likes and comments and trending hashtags and views, all that kind of stuff. And you and I have looked through it a few times, and it's ironic. And I think this is really important for LinkedIn, which is a business platform, first and foremost, above all the other ones. The posts that I've had that have gone viral or had the most hits are all personal ones. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really speaking to this idea that COVID is beginning to shatter, is we've tried to have this very distinct compartmentalization between business and personal. Mm-hmm. And it's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. People want personal and work in the personal. And so as I even look at that, it's even encouraged me that it's just fine to write about personal. One of the ones I went biggest is when my son turned 3, I took a picture of him at breakfast with a napkin hanging out of his mouth. You may remember this one.
Yes.
And I said, hey, my son turns 3 today. I'm taking the day off.
Yes.
And that was it. And people went crazy about it. I'm like, yeah, because that's important. And it's easy to get lost in business that, it's about profits, about reports and all this. Yes, but what's the purpose of business? And everybody has their own. For me, my business is to help people. But first and foremost, it's meant to serve my family. And if it ever gets in the way of that, I'll go work at Home Depot 40 hours a week so I can be with my family.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, and Kevin and I were talking about this. Kevin, my husband, I know you know who he is, but in case other people don't, we were actually discussing that there are most people would not even like business or to be in business if they weren't making money. I mean, we do business, we work jobs so that we can have money to support ourselves and our families. So, I mean, I love the business aspect, even without money personally, just because I think it's, for me, it's a great experience. I love interacting with other business people, but we are all here to make money. But I don't know where I was going with that, but that is such a beautiful thought. Anyway, yes. But the genuine, like you said, with COVID and all of that, that is important. I do think it is shattering our concepts of what business looks like. And the truth is that behind every business is humans. And, even if I'm doing business with your business, I'm still doing business human to human. Mm-hmm. And so how we relate to each other, how we communicate with each other is really important. Kevin said all social media is relationship oriented. This is what LinkedIn is finding too. The workplace is changing because we're all in the people business. And, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying about human to human. It's human to human interaction. It's human to human services and products, like you said, we're creating a product for another human. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to think and put ourselves in their shoes in order to create that product. So go ahead.
Well, and if you even think about some of the best businesses that are out there, Apple's a great example of this. Dyson is actually another one. They have above and beyond 10 times the normal customer care standard as others. And it's because they recognize that they take care of their clients, they come back. And so many people just see clients as a number and a metric. And I'm like, no, returning customers in any business, no matter what your business is, should be your bread and butter. But I think somewhere post 2008 recession that we lost sight of this, that it's all about people. And I think the companies that are actually doing really well are the ones who remember that and keep the people at the heart of, we want them to have a good experience. How can we do that better?
Absolutely. Starbucks is another example of that. And I have been a major lover of Starbucks. I know not everybody is, but they have a book out. I love their business journey. I love their marketing. I love their coffee. I mean, I love so much. There is one thing I don't agree with. I won't mention it here, but you're always going to find something you don't agree with most businesses because there's people behind them. But they do a great job of, hey, I didn't get my birthday drink. It's already gone. It's not available to me. I'll call up one of our local spots and say, I didn't get my birthday drink. I wasn't able to get out on my birthday, and now that is gone off of my app. And they're like, you know what? You're supposed to get it on the day, but we're going to take care of you. You just come by, tell them Andy sent you. I cannot tell you how many times there's been places inside Target where they messed up my drink. It was horrible, but I dumped it on the driveway. I had just taken one drink. They will not replace it because it's not a corporate store. And so I called another one, and they said, you know what? They should have fixed that for you. You come on by and we're going to take care of it. And I'm like, that is customer service, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And I'm sure that, like you're talking about, I haven't had interactions with Dyson, but I think that that's what you're talking about, is go above and beyond and put that happy feeling in people's minds. We take care of you no matter the situation. So Chris, every superhero has a defining moment. This is one of my favorite questions here in Zero to Hero. What is yours in regards to life and career?
Mine's pretty clear. About in 2007, my wife and I sold our company and we moved out here to Bentonville, Arkansas, to be close to her family, as we have two young boys. And selling that business was one of the most influential experiences in my professional career, but just in life in general. I was an addiction therapist. At 27, I was young and arrogant and thought I could do it better than all the other places I worked at. So I started my own addiction treatment center. And I avoided all the mistakes I saw people falling into, and I fell into a whole slew of them that I weren't looking for. And after about 5 years, we were really hoping to get this self-sustaining so I could take more of an executive director role and less as a actual therapist. And our son came a little early, and he was such a blessing. And we had to sit back and think, okay, what kind of lifestyle do we want? What is our vision? What are our values for lives as individuals and our family? And does running this treatment center allow us to do that? And after a lot of hard introspection, we came to the answer that no, it doesn't. And the irony is, at 5 years, we had really just hit that crescendo where we were making more money than we have ever made in our lives. Things were almost on autopilot. Things was wonderful. But deep down, we knew this isn't what we wanted. I had to work 10 to 8, which was hard enough on a marriage. I know it would be terrible on young kids. And calling out all hours of night, having to work with difficult clients, all of that. And so we decided to sell the business and move out here. And it was one of the most difficult things I did, but it was one of the first times I put a stake in the ground and said, this is what's important to me. And therefore, I've got to make the tough decisions that show that. I'd got blinded by the allure of the dollar and what the money could do. And again, I'd seen so many clients. I worked mostly with executives and millionaires who built these amazing businesses and lost their family in the process. And now that they're about to retire, they built this empire to have money to spend with their family, but they lost their family in order to get it.
Mm.
And so it was one of those defining moments for me, because I realized that's not what it's about. And so we moved here to Arkansas. I've been a coach for 3 years. Even now I'm going back into therapy a day a week, because it really brings me joy. I enjoy it. And we're creating this lifestyle that allows us to live out our values every single day. That allows us to have the work life, or as I like to call it, the life work balance we have. That allows me to be the person I want to be the majority of the time. I actually have my life values here on my plant in my office that I look at every single day to remind me this is how I want to answer every email. This is how I want to be present every phone call and everything I do. And as I can easily look back and say, deciding to sell our business and selling that business and moving out here allowed me and our family to really embrace our values and live those out. And that for us is where joy and happiness comes from. It doesn't have from money or things or experiences. It comes from people, as we've been talking about, of having a healthy family, having a great community around us here, my in-laws and our relationships with them, and not to have a work or a career that actually prevents me from doing the things I wanted to do.
That's so awesome. That really hits me right here. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's so special to see people, whether you've had your own experiences or you've watched other people experience it, to realize that putting your family and relationships first is more important. It's great to have money, it's great to have things, and you can build up to that, but you can do it in your way, where you're not having to lose everything in order to get it. And so, I mean, I don't think there's one person that can't say that that's a wonderful defining moment that you've described, and how it came about too. That's awesome.
And if anything, there's actually been a second one, which has been about a month ago, where I've been doing this executive coaching consulting business for 3 years and have been very successful. But I don't know if you guys experience this in digital marketing, but a lot of 80-90% of it sales and business development, the stuff I really don't like.
Yep.
And so partially the reason I'm going back to therapy and going to do a day a week of being a therapist, I'm actually going to be teaching an adjunct professor in a master's program in counseling. I'm going to do a day a week of consulting, a day a week of coaching, a day a week as stay-at-home dad, and somewhere my custom woodworking business in there as well. And as we're doing all this, I'm like, no, I'm doing more of what I love and less of what I don't. And though I got lost in chasing the dollar again in the coaching, because it's a very lucrative business, but I was doing 80-90% of my days were stuff I loathe. And so it became that second defining moment where, going off of these values, like, okay, I want to enjoy what I do every single day. And okay, so let's shift that. Let's do a little bit of all these things, all things I enjoy. And there's always going to be some stuff we don't. Admin. I talk to executives, if we can get to 80-20, 80 you like and 20 you don't like, you're amazing. And so that's what really doing. So there's a second defining moment for me is saying, yes, let's create that lifestyle. Let's make the decisions to actually every day it models that, not just on average in a month we fall there.
So you kind of described to me something that I think a lot of people deal with, and they have to decide, what is my priority? Like, what's really my drive? What's meaningful to me? And I was thinking about, even like, for example, in the real estate business or the insurance business, there might be some people that love just being in the background doing their paperwork. They really don't want a client face. And then there's those extroverts who, I love being out selling insurance, or I love being out showing houses, but now I got to go back and do all this paperwork. And it just kind of reminded me that there's probably a lot of industries like that where, they have that 50% to 80% that they love, and then that 20% back there that they just don't like, but that you're able to find something that has more of those things that you love and less of the things that you don't love. That's pretty cool. That's very cool that you're structuring your life that way.
Thank you. It's been a challenge and a roller coaster. And again, the irony is I talk about this with my clients all day long, right? I mainly work with architecture, engineering, and healthcare industries that I've worked across, but that just seems where I resonate very well. And so many of them, I've encouraged people to take the emotions, to step down. And it's because the dream in their head of what a certain position or role will be is so far from the reality. Now they're living in a workplace, in a job they don't enjoy at all. But because they're supposed to climb the corporate ladder and they're supposed to be a director or they're supposed to move to a VP, they've gotten rid of every part of their job that they love and now doing all the stuff they hate. And I tell them, for your own sanity and even for the profitability of the business, take a demotion. Go back to being a technical expert where you love it, where you're in your sweet spot and you perform amazing work and you're happy and you're more creative because of that. Do it. And I've had a few people take it and they've been so thankful because they're just like, yeah, being a major leader in my organization, not what I thought it'd be. And I'm much happier here. And I've had people who hired me said, thank you. We just wanted them to be on the right seat in the bus, to be in the right place. And that's what it's about. And I had to do my own adjustment in there myself this past.
That's awesome. Your own place on the bus. I've never thought of it that way. Everybody does have a place, but where is your place? Some people may not even realize at first that they're not happy. It seems to take some of us a longer time to go, okay, I don't really think this is what I should be doing. And that's the nice thing about people like you coming in to say, okay, let's talk through this. Let's really delve into it. Let's look into it. Hey, wait a minute. You're not where you're supposed to be. So let's back up a little bit, and then most people are saying, hey, let's push forward and make this a better situation for you, or let's change you so you can fit that. But no, you're saying, hey, let's not change you. Let's change your situation so that you can be you. And I love that. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And a lot of people ask what executive coaching is, and this is exactly what I do in executive coaching. I help people ask, what's your passion? What's your vision? What's your values? How can we get you to live that out more in your business? Because if you do that, you'll be happier and the company will be more profitable. It's a win-win for everybody. And so many people executive coaching has been this scary thing to a lot of people, and this veil of what is it? A lot of it is just that of where can you be the best asset to your organization and where will you be the happiest? And usually they're the same spot.
So usually it does fit them to be in the spot that they're in, or has most of your experience been they're in the wrong place?
I'd say 80-90% of the time it has nothing. It has little to do with their role than it has to do with their perspective. I'll use an example. In engineering, people are typical engineers for 20 years, and then they become a project manager. And if they do well, then they become associate partner and a partner of the firm. But for 20 years of being a doer, that transition from a doer to a project manager is not easy, because you're going from doing a task very well to managing people, managing personnel, managing timelines, all that. And to do that well is difficult. And some people need support to recognize, hey, is this what you love? Is this what you really want to do? And for some people, it's, I really like helping people and developing junior employees. Great. You can still do that in your role. Can you hand off some of the stuff you don't like to someone who actually enjoys that? Right. And someone who doesn't enjoy the mentoring and the development, could you take some of that so that more of your job, you're still in the same role, the same position and company, but you've kind of shifted responsibilities around so that now everybody in your team, all of your peers, are functioning in their sweet spot and doing what they love. What I've seen 100% of the time happen is people become happier, they become more creative. The ideas that they come up with, because it's just natural to them to be in that spot, blow the mind, and something that nobody else can come up with, which results in more efficiency, more productivity for the company, and more profits. And so actually getting people in that place where they're happy, they come with a new level of passion, gusto, creativity, all of that, which is good for everybody, the person and the organization. And more often than not, they don't have to change their role. They just may need to shift a little responsibility.
Excuse me. Yeah, it actually makes me think of that term sweet spot, which I really honestly don't like that term, but I think there is a place for it. So it's like you're describing kind of the sweet spot in the company. This is where I belong. This is where I flow the most naturally. Like you said, I'm the most happy. When you're happy, you're going to be the most productive. And so I may have to be calling on you for some services here soon, Chris. I definitely have to move up the corporate ladder of J29.
There you
No,
go.
no, but actually just, finding that sweet spot of where people fit in is definitely really important. So where they flow the best. So next question, what are the attributes to you, to Chris Simon, that defines a hero? How would you define that?
I think the attributes of a hero are, first, someone who knows themselves, and second, who lives that out in a way that benefits everyone. If you think about the hero's journey, which is a writing paradigm that a lot of people use, there's always this hero who grows up, they reach a crucible, they gain a mentor, they go through a difficult time, they come back as better on the other side. I think that's the reality for us as human beings, is we grow through difficulties, not
Right.
through ease.
Right.
And I know, look, in my own life, the times I've grown the most are when they're most uncomfortable. Like when we sold our business and I had an identity crisis because I had too much of it wrapped up in our business.
Right.
And I think what heroes do is when things get difficult and they know, oh, this is good for me. This is really going to benefit me, my organization, my family, people around me. But wow, is it going to suck? Those heroes are the ones who say, you know what? But it's worth it. I know the reason why. I know who I am, and I know where I'm trying to go. And because of that, the way is not as scary.
Gotcha.
Because I know what's on the other side. And I think those heroes are the ones that we look up to because they talk about those journeys they've taken. They talk about the difficult times so that we can relate to them, so that we can see, wow, you're not just a figurehead. You've really done this internal work, and I call those heroes because then they inspire people to do better. They empower people to be themselves and to do only what they can do, and encourage them to go on their own journey. And so I think the heroes are the ones who accept that challenge and model it well for others, because then others can become their own hero.
So what I'm hearing is that in the midst of difficulty, these people don't give up. They see the path clearly. They know what it's going to cost them, but they continue to push forward and do what they know they need to do in order to make it happen. They're willing to suffer. They're willing to sacrifice. They're willing. Is that kind of, do you feel like that kind of goes along with what you're saying?
It is. And the core component that I think so many people are missing in that is having a clear vision, having a clear goal of where I'm trying to achieve. So many people in business just go where the opportunity comes. And so you look at their careers and it goes like this. And you sit back and you're like, who are they and what are they trying to achieve? And it's not until we actually understand that will we push through the fire? And a classic analogy is Frodo in the Lord of the Rings, right? He knew exactly why he was trying to go through all these terrible things. And Sam was his person next to him to help him. And Gandalf was the mentor who helped him along the way. But in the midst of this, because Frodo knew that he was trying to save the world, he went through every terrible situation, from being hurt and stabbed and caught in the spider's web and all this, because he knew this was important to me. This is bigger than myself. And I think when we don't have that vision, when we don't have those values of how we want to live life, but also of where we want to achieve, when things get tough, we say, it's not worth it. Why is it not worth it? Because I don't know what I'm going to gain from it.
Exactly.
But when we know exactly what we're going to gain from it, maybe not all the details, but we can say, I know this is going to get me better. And it's going to teach me the lessons I'm trying to learn, or it's going to take me somewhere I know that's good for me. We call that grit, perseverance, whatever. But I think it all comes down to is having that clear mission and vision to say, yes, I know this hard time's worth it.
I love that you incorporated that movie. Kevin said that's his favorite movie. So much great teachings in the Lord of the Rings series. And that was actually one of my questions that I was going to ask you. So I actually love that you went in that direction and you said, here's an example of exactly what I'm trying to say. So that's awesome. Now, when it comes to, okay, so we talked about seeing the future and having an idea of what that looks like what we're going toward and why we're doing what we do. But I noticed that a lot of people struggle with knowing themselves. So that was one thing with you as a therapist or an executive coach, all the different avenues that you've been involved in. How I don't know if this is a simple answer, but a question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How does someone get to know themselves? Like, what are a few things that you could give some tips to our audience to say, this is how you get to know who you are, or which direction that you would head in life?
Hey, we're just saying it's the hard questions that are beneficial. So thank you for the hard question.
Yes.
So what are some of those? A lot of what I do with clients is value exercises. I give them a sheet of 200 values and say, whittle them down to 5. And I walk through it with them for often an hour to come down as, who are you? And these aren't aspirational. Sometimes they're not very pretty. Sometimes they're the ones you don't like, but this is what drives me in my life. So, to understand who you are. And so you can find value exercise online anywhere. Writing personal mission statements of who are you, and there's a difference between a mission and a vision statement. And it's funny, my father-in-law and I disagree on this one a lot. Mission statement is who you are and what you're about. Like my mission is to walk alongside other people to help them discover who they are and encourage them to live that out in their daily life.
Okay.
That's my mission statement.
Okay. I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down, by the way. Go ahead.
Vision is, where do you want to be in the future? If you live that out 5-10 years from now, what would your life and scenarios look like? So if that looked like, then I would be an executive coach and a therapist. I'd be able to do some teaching. A lot of where I'm at now, actually, just being in the trenches with people and helping them learn. My father-in-law disagree. He believes that vision comes first, and some other people, great business minds, agree with that. I think mission comes first, because a vision of a future, I want to get here. How you get there matters.
So I'm just going to say that right now, your opinion on this live show is the only one that matters. But I do like hearing that someone else has a different perspective. And in knowing that different perspective, I'm going to say that I actually agree with your perspective, because I feel like if you don't know who you are, what you're about, and what you want, how can you have a vision? Now you could have a vision, like you were saying before, of I want to climb the corporate ladder and be in this role. I want to have this much money. I want to have this many toys and this much stuff in my life. I want to have this much success. But if you don't know who you are and what you're about, you may be heading in the wrong direction. You may never get there because it wasn't who you were intended to be, or the way that you were supposed to get it, the pathway in which you were supposed to get there. But if you know who you are, you may have taken a different path, but you still get there. But it's who you were meant to be. Right.
And going back to that original question is, how do you do this? I've had a couple executive coaching clients that I've worked with that their goal is to have a couple $1 million and retire. And they're like, that's a great goal. I'm like, that's not a goal. That's not a vision. And they look at me confounded. They're like, what?
That's just what you want.
No, but I'm like, what will $1 million allow you to do that you've always wanted to do? It is the tool to something greater. The title, the position, the power, then the authority, the money, the relationship, whatever that ideal we have on that pedestal that we think will solve all our problems. Often it's too shallow. There's a wonderful quote by C.S. Lewis that talks about kids making mud pies in the slums because they can't imagine what a holiday at the sea would be like. They can't think outside of their own construct of being in the slums, that there's something better. Yes. Sometimes we think about, being a millionaire would be it, or having a wonderful marriage or relationship, or having my own company. And there's like, okay, those are things, but like, what do they actually achieve within you? Are you looking for freedom? Are you looking for security? Are you looking for self-expression? Are you looking for deep relationship? And if you're wanting to understand who you are and what your mission is in life, nailing down deeper to say, what do those things actually give you? Those are the answers that are going to change everything. Because it may not actually be about having $1 million. It's about the idea that I don't want to work an 8-to-5 job and I want to have some flexibility. Well, you don't have to have a millionaire to do that. Being self-employed doing that. Insurance brokers don't do that. Like, there's a lot of companies and careers that don't work 8-to-5. But if you don't ever nail down to do it below that, you may work your entire career and realize I was chasing after actually something I could have had at 30 rather than 65.
Mm,
And this
very
is where
good.
a lot of people, their dreams are too small, not too big. It's like, oh, $1 million.
Mm,
No, stop there. What does that really give you that will give
mm,
you satisfaction?
mm. That is, wow, that's a thinker right there. That'll make you think.
Hey, I'm doing my job well then. That's
Hey,
what
when
I'm
I
all
get
about, is
off
getting
of
people
here,
to think.
I have a weekend goal. I got to write the stuff, what's my personal mission, what's my vision statement, so I can feed it back to y'all. Definitely. That makes me think of this is the last thing I'll say about this, but it makes me think about, the episode that I did with Wes Hamilton. He's well known here in the Kansas City area. He does um, disabled, but not really. That's what it's called, because he's in a wheelchair at this point because of an accident that happened. And he was just talking about how, where he came from, and how when you're in that situation, there's no one to show you that there's something bigger. You only see just that. And you're basically, everybody that comes to talk to you are people that have just come out of jail and say that's going to be your path, but you'll make it through it. But there's no one to come and say, hey, you could actually take a different path. Kind of like you were talking about the slum situation. There's no way that they can even fathom anything different than where they're at. They may not even like where they're at, but they don't know that there's anything better. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I felt like it really coincides with what you were saying, about mindset and perceptions. So if you can pick a hero, Chris Simon, that relates best to you, who would that be and why?
So I see the question. So we're talking superhero here.
Now we've
Not
switched to
real life.
superhero, not
Okay.
just the hero.
So I saw this going under a couple minutes ago, and I've been thinking about this, and I actually was having a really big trouble with it, because I love Batman in the sense where you see his dark side and you see his internal struggle, right? Of who am I? What do I want to be? How can I have healthy relationships? And as I was going through and even look at Superman, right? There's another one of all of his being alienated from his home world and being lost and trying to figure out his identity, being from Krypton, but not from Earth, and all this, and trying to have a healthy relationship with Lois Lane. I think about a lot of these. I'm like, who knows who they are, have found a way to have healthy relationships and be true to themselves. And I really struggle to find one that has done that. The only one that actually comes to my mind is Hawkeye from the Avengers, who actually hung up his bow to go and be with his wife and his kids for part of the Avenger series until the very end. And I'm thinking, what makes a hero? I'm like, he lived in his convictions. He did what was right for him and true to himself, and made the hard decisions to do it that not everybody would agree with. I think that's a superhero. Someone who's trying to take the road less traveled. And even as I'm thinking through other ones, I think comic books and heroes do a really good job showing the internal struggle, but I don't think there's a lot of resolution for them to where they've actually achieved the life that they're fighting so hard to obtain.
That's true. And actually, none of the others that I'm aware of did that. Now, I know that Iron Man tried to do that, but then as soon as he said, I'm not going back again, and she's like, really? And he's like, no, I'm not going. And then all of a sudden they called him back, and in the end, he ended up dying. So, that was, among all the superheroes I can think of, that was the one less traveled. Like Superman was afraid that his girlfriend at the time or whatever would get hurt. So then he's like, well, I just can't have love then. I've just got to save people, which, I mean, there's a sweetness in that too, but it's kind of more, if you do have a family, they should be first. Because if
Well,
you
let's
say,
take this even a step deeper.
oh my,
You've got Spider-Man, who does the same thing you said, Iron Man, Superman, I think of the Arrow, so many of these who sacrifice themselves for the greater good, right?
yes.
And I think, wow, how well does that parallel to our decisions in our career and a lot of the people we admire in the world, where they do what's expected of them rather than do what's actually best for themselves and those they love. A while ago, I wrote a small article on Andrew Luck's retirement. It's about a year ago. And I think it was one of the best decisions ever, because he made it for himself and his family and for everything he sought out to achieve. And everybody was so upset about him because they're like, he's at the height of his career. I'm like, he lived out his convictions when it was hard. That
Right.
is someone I want to look up to.
Right. Right. Right.
And I think even
Wow.
the superheroes, I think a lot of people mimic that in their business. Oh, if I just put in another 5 years, I'll make partner. I'm like, yes. And your kids will be 20 out of the house and they'll never know who their father was.
Right.
Or these other things. And like, I think we've almost become obsessed with this idea of sacrifice for the greater good, when
Right.
it's really a distorted greater good. It's our subjective view of the greater good. I will fall on my sword and be the martyr for other people, when there's no sword that needs to be fallen on.
Hmm.
But there's other ways to achieve the goals that everybody desires.
That's something I never understood about. That was something I never understood about the Asian culture. You know, if you've ever watched any Chinese movies or Japanese, especially, where they're like, you know, oh, I've failed, so I need to end my life, you know, so that um, I don't suffer the disgrace of it, you know. And it's like, wait a minute, don't end your life. You know, failure is not the end of life. It is the beginning of something new. And so, well, Chris, this has been an amazing conversation, and I literally would never get off. I could just sit here and talk forever and continue to learn from you. I do want to give everybody a chance, though, that's still on here watching, to know where they can follow you on social media. I know that you have a website. I believe it's elmry.com, ELMRY.com. Go ahead and tell us which channels you're on and how we can follow you before we end today.
Yes, my main platform is LinkedIn. I try to write anywhere from 3 to 5 posts every week on 3 topics: leadership, empowerment, and life-work balance. I think those are the topics that are going to change the world, and those are the ones that are important to me in my world. And so I write on that. The easiest way to find me is the hashtag Chris Simon on LinkedIn. You can find everything I post falls under there. And I've got a website. Let's be honest, it's not as active as LinkedIn is. And so if you're interested to hear my philosophy, to understand, to watch videos, to just learn, that's the best place to go.
Okay, well, perfect. Chris, thank you so much for coming on here today. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And I love just sharing you with our LinkedIn audience as well. And so if you want to stay on after the show, we'll just chat for just a little bit. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, guys.